Hi, I'm Erik Ewers, and I'm director of Hiding in Plain Sight, Youth Mental Illness. First of all, we'd like to welcome our very special guests to NamiCon. It's actually been 3 long years since we've seen a lot of these people, and a lot has happened in that time frame. When we first set out to interview these people, and many others in the film, we really weren't quite sure what we were trying to accomplish. We knew that we needed to hear from the youth, and we knew that that was something that hasn't really happened to our knowledge on a large scale in approaching the topic of mental health and mental illness. And we knew from the very first interview that these people had something to say. It intrigued us, and we kept diving deeper and deeper all across the country to see what we could find. The main thing that became very, very clear, that these people, these kids and young adults, are experts. They're experts of their own experience. They're experts in the mental health arena, whether they were willing or not. It comes to us all, and they were brave enough to share their stories collectively in the film that we're going to air soon on PBS. Youth rarely have the platform to truly inform adults as to how they feel. Often they're brushed aside. Oh, they're teenagers. Oh, they're preteens. Oh, they're young adults. What do they really have to say? I think our film and these individuals here today will prove that they have an awful lot to say. So 3 years later, since we started this project, after enduring strife across the country in various forms and a pandemic, we are finally here. We have a finished 4-hour, 2-episode series on youth mental health. Our film comes at a critical point in our national conversation about mental health. And all of you here are a part of that. And that's what we're going to get into today. And it's also very exciting to say this is the first time we have had a bunch of people in the same room together that are in this film. It's very, very exciting to have you here, and thank you. We're here to talk about the collective roles that you've played in the film and what you think the film means to a larger PBS audience. The way we'd like to start is by showing you a brief clip of one of our interviewees here today to just give you a better idea of who they are and what they're all about. So Julie, could you share Alexis?
I live on a Chippewa tribe reservation, very isolated. We have a beautiful culture and we have a really good support system. But at the same time, there's a lot of drug abuse, a lot of alcohol abuse, a lot of poverty, and dealing with being profiled as an Indian. That's very confusing for a person to grow up in. I was an emotional teen. I wanted to know who I was, and I was trying to figure that out. So, where do I go? And who do I ask?
Beautiful, beautiful, Alexis. My first question, I think, is directly related to that video. What was the practice that you were doing with the smoke at the end, and why is that something you do?
So what I'm doing there is called smudging, and it's the act of sage. Sometimes it's used with multiple medicines. You could use multiple medicines, but it's an indigenous practice of burning sage, sometimes cedar, sometimes sweetgrass. And when you do that, you burn it in that fire. At that moment, you're just kind of saying whatever you need to say, right? You're just trying to get out what you need to get out. I smudge every morning, every evening, when I was taking tests during school, when I was just really stressed out. Even just smelling that smell gives me that calmness now that I need. because of that practice, because that is just a form of praying for my people. And there's a whole conversation that could come with that as far as traditional medicines and appropriations, things of that sort. But the main thing is that just contributing, to indigenous communities, acknowledging and, going forth with a good heart. And that's the main thing of indigenous spirituality, is going forth with a good heart. So that's the main thing that I was doing there, was smudging, and I was praying, and I was setting my intentions, and yeah.
Excellent, excellent. One thing in traveling there and having the privilege of being with you and your family on the reservation for 4 or 5 days, which was one of the high points of our excursions around the country, we noticed an incredible sense of community and culture. As far as the topic of mental health is concerned, can you comment about the importance of community and culture in addressing mental health?
Oh yeah, it's always it's something that I feel is, it could feel lonely, and the importance of community. And I feel like, I don't want to talk for everyone, but I feel like maybe that's why a lot of us contributed to this documentary and this movie, is because it gives a sense of community, right? It makes you feel less alone. It makes you feel like you could have a conversation and just get those feelings out, and you have that support. Support is so big. So that is definitely the importance of community, and my community does play a big part in my healing, in my journey, whether it was college, or it was trying to find my career, even being as a mom. Like, I was told it takes a whole tribe just to raise a child, and I truly believe that. I love the support that I get, and it's really amazing, because I don't feel alone, and that's important.
Does anyone else in this panel today have a sense of community that they rely on in some way, shape, or form, similar to what Alexis is speaking of? Would one of you? I see a lot of nodding. Billie, how about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So for my community, sorry, I really discovered a lot of it actually when I moved to Salem for college. And that's because it was mainly through like the activism community that I'd found here. Prior to moving, I had been going to a lot of protests in Portland and meeting a lot of really cool people there, and kind of developing this like very small community that was directly outside of the Multnomah County Detention Center. And then when I moved here to Salem, I just so happened, like I was out on a walk one night, and I just happened to see all these people outside of the Capitol, and I went over to see what they were doing and like talked to them. I ended up spending like the entire night with them, and they just like took me in instantly. And now a lot of those people that I had met from like literally my first 2 weeks of moving here are some of the closest friends I have now. So definitely community has been a big part of my mental health journey, and kind of make sure I remain sane to some level.
Perfect. MakaLynn, I saw you nodding.
Yeah. So I found that 12-step meetings, the fellowship of a 12-step meeting, and just being around individuals who understand something that, not just something that I've gone through or I'm currently going through, but something that is not spoken of often. There's kind of this stigma placed on being an addict, or being in recovery. A lot of times the general public, they look at addicts as it's something that was in the past, the drug use was in the past. And for anybody who's in recovery, that, as a recovering addict, it's something that's always going to be a part of you. It's something that you work on daily, and you kind of have to learn to make peace with and laugh at the things that you did in your past in order to move on from it, and in order to make those changes that are necessary to become a productive member of society. And without that 12-step, without that fellowship, I would have continued to live in that shame and in that stigma. And I would have continued to feel, marginalized and like I had to hide my past. So, with that, like I said, with that fellowship, I'm able to celebrate it now and to accept it and move on.
Oh, that's incredible. That's really, really cool. Yannery or Maclayn, either of you have community that you rely on?
Yeah, I think my family is my biggest part, like supporter, because when I was going through that, I kind of thought that I was alone and I was the only one going through this. And in my little community, I felt alone, but then I have my family and they would love and they do anything for me. So, and then I just found like a lot of good people at my school, and I just feel that I'm not alone and there's people going through the same thing that I am who understand what it's like to go through the journey.
Fantastic. Yannery, I don't want to leave you out. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'd definitely say my family and my friends, and definitely my boyfriend. They are very helpful and they are very supportive in what I'm going through. And they help me grow as a person, and they teach me a lot, just morally and just in my intellect. They help me grow as a person.
Absolutely. And there's so many people out there who may not have family to rely on. Anybody have any advice for those people who say, wow, I don't have that. I wish I did. Anybody? Billie?
Oh, you can go.
Oh, thank you. I definitely say that it really helps to find like the support within yourself, because it's very important to find that with yourself first. Even I have struggled with, family members that I have lost or have arguments with. It made me realize that, at the end of it, it's me in my head every day, and it's me what coaches just a better day and a better lifestyle for myself.
Billie.
Okay. Yeah, definitely want to highlight what you said, of trying to find that support within yourself. And it's like learning to sort of stand on your own 2 feet, because I'll certainly help you through whatever you're going through. But also, I just believe in like seek out that community, because like, again, originally when I moved to Salem, I didn't know anyone here, and then just by sheer coincidence of going out on a walk for a cigarette, I managed to find like some of the most amazing people I know now. So your community is out there, just search for it.
Fantastic. Mary, I think you had something you'd like to add.
Yeah, we have seen other people kind of react to different situations, being a parent, and my husband and I, and we kind of look in, I think it's really important to find a therapist that works for you. Know that you don't have to do it alone. And I mean, we went through a lot trying to find Key, our saving grace, but just continue on that search, because you aren't alone and there is someone out there that can help.
No, that is so true. I have my therapist I see every other week, and I have anxiety. I've been medicated for 20 years, so I know all too well the difficulties that we face in finding the right person to talk to. And of course, I have my family to go to as well. I think this is a great point to show our next clip. And if Julie's ready, our next clip is going to be of Maclayn.
I started having sad thoughts around the end of 3rd grade. Just like random things that just happened throughout my day. Things like if somebody smiled at me and I didn't smile back, I just started feeling different. from all my other friends and like my crowd. If you feel very uncomfortable throughout the day, then you need like an answer of what is going on.
Maclayn, that is incredible advice that you give right there. I think it's very, very straightforward. And I remember in your interview, you talked about the empathy that you have, the feelings that you have about other people that you suspect might be having challenges, or maybe ones that are sitting next to you that might have challenges and you have no idea. When it comes to understanding mental health and understanding what people think about it, how do you go about your day in trying to encourage other people to kind of shake off those negative feelings about mental health?
I think it's a lot of, you gotta, like, I did my optimist speech, and it's where you talk about optimism pretty much. And I talked about how you could be looking at someone and they could just like be really happy, but when they go home, they can have like a mental breakdown, you know? And that was for me. I always got commented like, you have the best smile. You're always smiling. You just are always so happy. But then I'd get home and I'd cry for long periods of time. I just feel like you just got to reach out. You got to find the people who love and care for you, whether that's your family, your friends, or even like a school counselor or a teacher. You just need to find someone that will be there for you and can help you. I think for me, I don't really know. I just kind of try to kind of mention that, like, I like showing people how my journey, I like talking about my journey, but also how I've improved as a person and how I'm feeling now. And I'm, just like, I feel kind of free, I guess. I felt kind of trapped when a while ago when I wasn't like feeling like me, I guess. And now I just feel like, yeah.
That's fantastic. And, it's hard to remember, like our film says, that mental illness can be hiding in plain sight. And we all take for granted that the person we know right next to us is okay, is fine, is feeling good, feeling great. They got a happy face. There's the whole notion of stigma with mental illness. Don't you all agree that mental illness is not a bad word? It's really just one element of life that we all face to some degree. Is that true? Anybody want to comment about that, about the inevitability of it? Is that a fair statement? It's just on a scale to some degree. Anybody want to comment on that? Alexis?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that mental illness is on a spectrum, really, and it is up to you and to take some time with yourself, figure it out, because all of our stories are different, right? Everyone has their different story within this documentary. That's literally everyone within this world, right? Everyone's gonna have different stories, different ways they received it, different ways they developed it, different ways they're gonna heal it, and everything's in a cycle, right? Everyone's on their own time, and so everything's very unique. So anxiety from one person isn't gonna be as look the same to the next person. So it is something that we all have to deal with, and it is all on a spectrum. So definitely don't compare, because I had a hard time with that when I stepped forward into this documentary, because I even told you guys, like, right before the interview, I was like, my story is really I didn't want to say soft, but it was really soft compared to all the stuff that was going on my reservation that I know my friends were going through, that I know other community members were going through. And I just kind of like downplayed myself, you know, and even though I still had a story and I was still sharing it, I still kind of felt that. And I really don't want people to feel that, you know, like I don't want people to look at this documentary and say, yeah, that was way worse than what I go through. So I'm just kind of push it aside. No, like it's a spectrum, and you are valid in your feelings. You're valid in your journey, and all the stuff that you're dealing with is always going to be valid, no matter how big or how small you think it is. It's always going to be valid.
That's a great point. In fact, in the introduction of the film, Patrick Kennedy weighs in on that very topic. And he says, so many people say, well, it's not that bad. And then he says, well, compared to who? It's individual. And that is one of the big things that we take from this film, is how individual it is. And one of the things that we tried to do was to show the spectrum. It's not about showing the drama. It's about showing the human experience at whatever degree it has affected you, and the people around you. So I really love that point. Thank you. I'd love to ask all of you a question that leads, I think, towards one of the great themes in the film. And I'm just going to go around. I'm going to start with Maclayn. I would love to know how you felt. Here we are. We tear apart your apartment and put a million lights up and a camera, and we spend 2 hours doing that. Your dog is going crazy, and you must have been thinking something before we started. You're about to talk about some of your deepest, darkest moments. How did you feel going into the interview? And then how did you feel when it was over?
Yeah, I think I even mentioned this a couple of times while we were filming. I kept mentioning the word vulnerable. I was extremely vulnerable. I felt open. I spoke about a lot of things in the film that I hadn't expressed sometimes to anybody, let alone, you know, like more than a few people. They're my closest friends and family members. I was a wreck. I was wildly nervous. The thought kept going through my head, like, you know, whatever you're to sound like an idiot, you know, whatever you're saying, you're about to sound like you don't know what you're talking about, or you're going to sound crazy. People are going to think you're really off your rocker, or going back to what Alexis said, that, you know, people are going to think that you're being dramatic. Just constantly, I was just, you know, beating myself up. Thankfully, as we went on, I got more comfortable with answering the questions, because I realized I was just telling my story. You know, I was just repeating what had already happened. And then after we were done filming, it clicked for me that I was sharing things that I share in my 12-step meetings. You know, whenever I go to meetings where I'm surrounded by people who are just like me, and it's a lot easier there, obviously. But it made sense that the reason that I share what I share in 12-step meetings is to help the next person, is to make it easier for them, is to make them feel comfortable, and to realize that there is a side, or to realize that sometimes we do have bad days. You know, some days are worse than others, and we survive. And a lot of times we don't just survive, we make it through, and we're better on the other side for it. So I felt a lot better after the few blunders of the B film that we made, and, you know, where I would look at the camera and freeze, you know, because I didn't know what I was doing. But other than that, it felt like I was doing something. It felt like I was contributing.
So if you had one word to describe how you felt about sharing after we were done, a word or a phrase, how would you describe yourself?
I think I felt hopeful.
Beautiful. Alexis, how did you feel before and after?
Here's something I found from WikiHow. Step 1.
Alexa.
Thank you, Alexa. That was very informative. Okay.
That happens all the time, actually. But I like right before, so I like, as if you guys didn't know, I'm like huge pregnant. I'm like in my last trimester of my pregnancy. And I was like, oh my God, am I gonna be way more emotional than I usually am? And like, and I was really like in a very different space because I was pregnant, and I mentioned that. And we smudged before we did it. We smudged while we were doing the interview. I had my feather out, and that's very connected to me and my spirit. And I wanted to do that because when I do that, I really wanted to speak from my heart, because I wanted this to be impactful. I wanted my story to help others. So I was very like USA in it. I was ready to go. And I also too was very, very raw and mentioned a lot of things that not even close family members knew. And I also mentioned in there that like I'll always have like that scar of that journey that I went through. And it's kind of like I reopened it. But at the same time, I did it because it's going to heal, and I'm healing more of it. And it did a lot of healing for me because I still let stuff go that I didn't mention, you know? And now that it's out there and I got it out there, I really did feel healed, and I felt relieved, and I took a big breath. And it's just, I owned my story after that. I owned my journey. I owned what had happened to me, and I was proud of the healing that I went through. And I still am today. And like, and I'm going, and like, there's a lot of things that happened since then. Cause like, I think about stuff that I'm going through today, and I'm like, dang, I really should have mentioned that in my interview. Or I'm going through this right now, and now that I understand this, I should have mentioned that on there. So that's also another good point, that healing and even mental illness is a constant cycle. Always something new, always something to learn about yourself, and always, it's always a journey, and it's a beautiful journey. So don't be scared of it. So yeah.
That's incredible advice. Before we go to Yannery, we're gonna show her clip.
I grew up in like low poverty. I always was in public housing my whole life, so it was very like difficult to deal with. I remember as like a little kid, I walked off into a field to like pick flowers, and kind of heard like my friends calling my name, and I would turn around and there was really no one there. It was very confusing for me, kind of frightening.
So Yannery, one thing that was so fascinating about you when we were first introduced to you through your therapist in Connecticut was how much you wanted to tell your story. Even from our very first pre-interview on the phone, you kept saying, thank you so much for letting me have the opportunity to tell my story. So I'm going to kind of combine the previous question with a little extra. We'd love to know how you felt before we rolled camera and started the interview, and how you felt after. And then I'm going to ask you one other quick question.
I guess before, well, growing up, I never had that real support. Even as I said, I never found a real solid therapist that really worked for me until towards the end of high school. So throughout my life, I really didn't have anything to relate to, or just anyone to say, you know, it's okay. Like, that's normal. It's okay. So to have this opportunity to just see my story and have the opportunity for others to see that and help normalize it, it felt like very hopeful again and very relieving. And even though I didn't get this like opportunity to see documentaries like this, I'm very hopeful for other people to see that. And before like recording, I was very nervous. I really just, I had a million thoughts running in my head. I didn't know what to start with, what to speak about, what not to speak about. But I think all in all, it was very good. And the topics I touched, I felt like it will really reach out a lot of people. And so I felt very like happy, but also like relieved in a way, because just thinking, just the thought of like helping people is like very, helpful for me.
So that's what drove you to want to participate in this and be so motivated to participate, which was very inspiring for us. Is that pretty much the reason why? Is there any other reason why you wanted to tell your story so badly?
I also just wanted to have, I guess, my family and other people see like how this isn't a thing that's meant to hold you back, because my family tend to very not touch on that topic. They're very just private about their own mental health and stuff. And I think it's very important to not only bring awareness to it, but to also teach young children that like dealing with your emotions and being open about your emotions, it's okay and it's not a bad thing to do.
Fantastic. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. Maclayn, tell me about how you felt after, if I recall, we were out filming, skulking around your yard at 5 a.m. before we even met you. Not filming in windows, but filming windows and filming your animals and the sunrise. And the same day we did your interview. How did you feel going into it?
Well, I guess when I woke up, I saw you guys outside and I was like, this is really happening. It was kind of surreal. Like, this is not really happening. Like, but at the same time, I was really happy that it was happening, because I felt like everyone else saying, or I felt that it was a very important topic to talk about, and that it doesn't need to be something that's like, shh, don't talk about it, especially like, because I was really young and it wasn't really a topic that people brought up. It was, and if they did, it was more like, don't talk about it, like it's not a big deal. But I was just really nervous, and then afterwards I was just really excited, because I knew that even if my story helped one person out there, that's enough. That's all I needed, was to help one person.
And it's great that you say that, because another interviewee, Morgan, in the film, right as we end the introduction, she says, if I can just help 2 people, then I've done my part in this world. And she then proceeds to smile this incredibly beautiful smile that just tells you that there's so much she wants to give, and you included, and every single person here is doing that same thing. And that is one of the biggest takeaways I feel from the film, is not just willingness to talk about it, but it's almost more important to know that by talking about it, you're helping other people. So Mary, I'd be very interested from a parent's perspective, how you would feel about allowing your child to be interviewed for a national television show about what is typically a stigmatized topic.
Yeah. And so I think I was, Joe and I were those parents that were definitely a no. We're not doing this. This is a personal thing. We're in Montana. It's a good old boy state, and you don't talk about it. And especially being a young boy, he'll get over it. Tell him to, pull his boots on and keep going. He'll be fine. And then we kind of brought it up with Maclayn, and he said, well, who's going to see this? And I said, I think the goal is for the whole world to see this, especially teachers and physicians and therapists. And he's like, okay, and he was, 11, if one person can be helped by this. And so, Joe and I, okay, let's do this. So I think we were pretty nervous about the interview. We didn't really know, how much we wanted to kind of get out there, but it was just very natural. We felt very comfortable. And when we were done, we just felt really relieved that his story was out there, and we're not the only, mom and dad out there struggling with mental health issues with a little kid. So we felt good after.
And it's so interesting from a filmmaking perspective that I remember we would say it to every single person that we interviewed. We'd say, feel free to say, I'm not comfortable answering that question. And I don't think any of you ever said, I'm not comfortable answering that question at all. There's just this deep desire within to share and maybe to just get it off your chest, to get it out of your head and get it out there. There's one individual in the film who we were told certain topics were off topic, but then this person, him or her or themselves, spoke out on their own and owned something that they had not owned prior to this film. And it was a very special moment for the parents, for the therapist that was there and helping. And so we've actually experienced this desire to share this greater good. And it's what makes all of you heroes, and why we use that word and we mean it. It's not just a cliche. Billie, how about yourself? How did you feel with us invading your bedroom? I think, didn't we start setting up before you got home? And we're kind of like, I hope you don't mind.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I think we just kind of said like, oh yeah, no, let yourselves in, get comfortable and everything, and I'll be back. I feel like it's a bit different for me because previous to that, I did have experience with like doing interviews and even like doing podcasts and stuff. I've helped a lot with like my mom's work and trying to promote a lot of those like mental health resources that have been so valuable to me. And so I didn't feel the same level of anxiety, but also at the time I was probably very dissociated. So I like only half knew what was going on. And so beginning like going into it, I didn't really know what to expect. Like I didn't know like exactly what kind of questions would be asked, how many questions there would be and all of that. And then throughout the process of it, as I began telling my story more and answering more questions, I kind of got more grounded into reality. And by the end of it, I just remembered feeling excited to see what this turns into. And I also do just love telling my story. I'm a bit of a narcissist. But that same sentiment has carried with all of the interviews I have done, of just wanting to help one more person. And that is what has been motivating me to keep going with keep on telling my story, of just helping people who probably the majority of the time I won't even know who they are or what they're going through. But it's just the case of I know that this film and me telling my story will help someone out there who is going through a similar situation. And so I just wanted to get right into it and do that. And yeah, I just felt so very hopeful to see what this turns into.
You and all of us feel the same way about that. We're really excited about the attention that it's getting. We haven't even started promotion yet. And the attention is unprecedented. This is a very timely subject. And I think perhaps we're meant to be telling this story. We were all meant to come together at this point in time. So I feel very, very confident of the difference that you will all make. And I just want to speak to, Alexis and Billie. Both of you have done some of this kind of, these kind of interviews before in the past. And correct me if I'm wrong, MakaLynn and Yannery, was this a relatively new experience for you?
Yeah.
But I just want to point out that everyone in this film is so articulate. Everyone in this film is wise beyond their years, in a way that I think people will really notice that. When you give young people a voice, man, do you give them a voice? It's really, really incredible. I think we have our next clip, which I believe, Julie, is MakaLynn.
I grew up in an area that was wealthy, but I was from like the other side of the tracks. So I didn't have, growing up, we didn't have money at all. So I was constantly trying to fit in. My father has been incarcerated off and on my entire life. He's an addict, but growing up, when he was clean, he was an amazing father. But when he wasn't, it was ugly. Looking back now, his effect on my life was very traumatic. So my resilience definitely surprises me. Standing tall, that's amazing to me.
MakaLynn, I think your particular story is incredible in the sense that you represented a lot of people who have had trauma from their parents, who have tried, I think, as you said in the film, that it was normal at the time because you didn't know better until you get older and have the ability to look back on it. And sometimes that's when the challenges start. It really did for me at age 53 or 51 when it first started for me in a very serious way. But my question to you is also one that I'd like Alexis to answer, because both of you used a word in the film that has become the chapter title of our second episode, thanks to the two of you. And that word is resilience. Episode 1 is called The Storm, and episode 2 is called Resilience. So I'd love to ask you first, MakaLynn, what that word means to you.
Resilience to me just means not staying down, not letting the ugly things or the traumatic things that have happened in my life that I've experienced define me. And that's one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to participate in this film is, I spent a lot of time in my life before I came to the realization that I'm more than just my diagnosis. I'm more than just an addict. I'm more than just somebody with bipolar disorder. So just kind of exploring who I am as an individual and realizing that I'm more than just, somebody who had a father who's an addict and was in and out of jail. I'm more than just somebody who grew up with a mother with undiagnosed mental illness, and had a very tumultuous relationship with her. I've learned that I can continue to blossom into somebody that who I'm my own person, just making sure that I'm not staying down in that pit, that despair, because that's something that is very easy to do. It's very easy. And I have done this in the past. I'm not a big fan of this term, but, playing that victim role, like staying in that victim mentality that, this is who I am. This is my life. So why not just stay here and let it consume me? I've got more to do in this life than just sit in that dark spot.
So true. So true. And we all do that. There's no doubt about it. but it's very real at the time, and it's hard to explain that to someone. But I admire that all of you have done that so well in the film. Alexis, you also had the word resilience that you used in the film, and you were tearful when you said it. Can you comment?
Yeah, for sure. That word means a lot to me, and that's why I was so tearful. And it brings up so much because it's that one word has so much power in it, so much behind it. It's not just another word, you know, it explains a lot, it tells a story. And when I talk about resilience, I talk about how it's literally within my blood. It is within me. And it was given to me from generations before me. And there, like MakaLynn was saying, you are more than titles, you are more than what, you know, you were brought up in, you are more than the environment that you may not like. You are more. And that's the resilience. That is the resilience within your blood. That is, resilience is going to take you far. And yeah, I don't want to like go too much into like the whole reason why I say it's in my blood. It says a lot. 7 generations behind me, 7 generations ahead of me. Yeah.
No, it's so true. And you don't have to, because you do in the film.
Yeah, I'm sure I do, because I talk a lot about that. I made a point to make sure that I was in there for, you know, for my people.
Yes, and one of the things that we're going to explore, we're hoping to do a second film on adult mental health that will be very similar to this one. And we hope to come back and talk about your generations behind you, and let some of those generations tell their own story. And there will be a lot of you that we will want to get back in touch with on this next film as well. I think it's a good time to show, I believe, our last clip of Billie.
Oh boy. I live surrounded by a bunch of farmland, and people weren't very accepting, so I never really got a chance to explore my identity until I moved here. I started to wear more feminine clothes, started to wear makeup every day. It was good at first, but the day I went to school with pink hair, my car ended up getting vandalized and someone wrote queer on the back windshield.
Beautiful. So my first question to you, Billie, is, are you a good driver?
That depends who you ask. Personally, I like to think that I am. Anyone who has driven with me says otherwise.
My brother was sitting in the car with Billie, traveling to unknown destinations that day. We wanted to film Billie. Actually, we did know. We went to your therapist's, and then we had the crazy idea of filming in an empty parking lot for a scene for social media, which actually turned out to make it into the film in really incredible ways, Billie. So my question to you really is talking about the whole notion of identity when it comes to mental health. We all seek identity in the world, but then a wrench gets thrown into it. And that's a mental health challenge. Can you comment on the notion of identity in the discussion of mental health challenges?
Yeah, I feel like identity plays into mental health in a lot of ways. Ways just to like your own identity in like if you're not really sure who you are or how you identify, that can end up being detrimental in many ways. And that is something that was definitely a big factor starting off when I first began my transition. And now I have gotten like such a good understanding of my identity that I don't really feel the need anymore to place a label on it. Like I had, like before, I think at the time I was identifying as a trans girl. And then nowadays, when I explain it to people, I usually say I'm trans non-binary. But in reality, I'm just me. And it doesn't like, I don't need to put a label on. I know who I am. I know how I feel. And so I've really just been able to find myself a lot more over these past few years. And another way it plays in is actually through like the identity of your mental illness, where if you're able to find out what that is and actually like put a name to it, it can end up taking away a lot of that power that mental illness holds over you. And that was a big part that helped me come to terms with a lot of the issues that I had been facing. And like, even now it still plays a big role in that. I just got diagnosed with severe ADHD last year and only began treatment for it last year. So that's cute. And I'm still discovering even more parts of that particular identity and seeing like how my brain actually works, how my memory actually works. And it feels empowering to just know that for myself, and to know that it's not something that I always have to advertise to people. And it's not something that I always have to like tell someone, hey, this is all of the parts of who I am. It's just, I'm me. If you meet me, then you'll probably understand some of it.
It's beautiful. It's so, it's wonderful to hear some of these things, because it makes me immediately, for the past 3 years, my life has been referencing the film on a daily basis. So when you just said, I'm just me, it snaps me to a scene in the film with Maclayn. And Maclayn just spells it out as clearly as possible. You just say, I'm just me. It's not more complicated than that. I'm the whole package, the great stuff and the challenges. What do you have to contribute as far as this conversation on identity in school, at home? Oops, I think we lost him.
Ooh.
So the next, we'll just move right to Yannery, because I was going to ask the same question. There's a chapter in our film that deals with that greater conversation of identity, and I'm curious what you think about that.
I guess with identity, I'd say that it definitely changes a lot, especially with like you said, learning about yourself. You're always learning and having new ideas and even new morals as you're just living through these experiences throughout your life. I think that it's also not very important to just go out and say that, like, this is me, I have this is all the mental illnesses that I have. I feel like, you know, of course, when you're comfortable, there comes a time when you express that. And at the end of it, you know, if a person truly cares about you, they will accept you as you are, because you are you. And I think that, although for me, at least, like, my mindset is always changing and I'm always consistently trying to become a better person and just having new ideas. And it's a very just challenging this experience. It's just you learn new things about yourself and life, and it's just an amazing experience overall. I think that if you take into consideration and really use it as leverage instead of pulling yourself down, it can really help you a lot.
It takes a while to get to that point sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you agree, Maclayn, as far as getting to that point where you can kind of say the glass is half full and reflect? What does it take to get to that point?
I think it takes trial and error, being vulnerable with yourself and those around you. You know, it's a process. I still go back and forth with it. For instance, you know, I'm more comfortable with sharing the part of myself that is in recovery, that's a recovering addict, because my safety depends on it. You know, if I put myself in certain positions or I'm around certain people, it could be the end of everything for me. With my bipolar diagnosis, sometimes I'm a little more apprehensive. You know, and I do wait until I'm sure that a relationship is going to be something that is substantial before I share that, because a lot of times it's easy for somebody to reduce me to that diagnosis, you know, and then all of a sudden any little, you know, I could be experiencing a very natural and justifiable emotion, and then all of a sudden, oh, it's because she's bipolar, you know, so it takes some time, and like I said, trial and error to feel comfortable and to feel to have those uncomfortable moments, because not everybody is accepting of that. Not everybody is understanding. Not everybody, a lot of people are ignorant to a lot of things that I experience in people with mental illness experience. And I just kind of have to accept that. I have to understand that not everybody is going to know what it means to live with a mental illness, and that's okay. You know, I can choose to continue to have them in my life, or I can choose to not do so, but I can't let it deter me from being who I am, and, you know, in striving to become who I want to be.
So identity, in your case, really plays a significant role in your story.
Identity is 100% a significant role, and making sure that I don't just focus on that like one identity. I think I spoke about this in the film, the intersectionality of everybody. Every single person on this earth is more than just this one identity or these few labels or these few terms. There's so much that happens in our lives that folds into who we become, and it's important to have that empathy to understand that everybody comes from something different, and, you know, who I was last week may not be who I am next week, because, you know, something may happen. So not reducing myself to one identity, but accepting who I am and all these different parts that play along.
So I have one more question to ask each of you, and I'd love to hear what you think. Ironically, it's a question I asked all of you in the interview process years ago. But given the fact that the film has now developed and is finished, and given the fact that it is a tapestry of human experience across all diversities, cultures, economic classes, if you will, demographics, ages, severity of symptoms, I want, now that it's all come together and you've all had time to reflect on your role in the film. So my question, I'm going to start with Alexis. My question to you, to all of you, is if mental health is a storm, after it passes, is there a silver lining?
Oh yeah, there is. And it is, as much as storms are scary, there's some beauty in it. There's always going to be, and there's beauty after, right? And storms come and go, and it's always going to be like that. That's how life is. Storms come and go, and there's always rainbow after. There's always the beautiful flowers and the green grass. It's always going to be there.
So what is your silver lining?
My silver lining, I don't want to give a specific, like, this is my my happy ending, right? because, and the reason I say that is because I really, especially being in the state that I am in right now, I really see how life is like a circle, how it's always ever evolving. And even since that film, I've had a son. I've had, not only have I had a son, but we had a hard go. My son had a very hard go in the first couple months. I was a first-time mom. He was going through brain surgeries and heart surgeries. I was eventually diagnosed with all this postpartum depression, anxiety. I still adored my son, but like, I was just scared of losing him. That was a very different emotion. So if you would have asked me like of what my silver lining looked like during that film, it's going to be different than right now. And it's going to be different tomorrow and 2 years from the next day, but it's literally just owning who I am, owning my life, loving my people in my life, and living every day with a good heart. That is my silver lining. Doing what I love to do, living.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Yannery, the storm passes. Is there a silver lining for you?
I think that through my whole experience, I think my silver lining is through all these experiences that I had, good or bad, they teach me things. They make me who I am as a person, and they contribute to my morals and my ideals and my overall personality. I think the silver lining is that it helps me evolve as a person, and it helps me see life in a different perspective, like how I see life today, like, always be changing. And I think that, the beauty of it is to see that change and becoming a better person overall.
That's so hopeful. That's great. It's great advice for someone to, who's still in that storm, to experience and hear. Maclayn, your storm, has it passed, and do you have a silver lining?
Yeah, I think especially going to like a Catholic school and like back to the identity thing, like I'm gay and I came out when I was really young, and it was kind of just how do you know? And it just, are you sure? It's just a phase, and it's me. It's nothing more, nothing less. It's me. I'm human. That's all that really matters. I just feel like the silver lining is really like I found good friends. It was really tough for me. Like even last year when you're going, even after like filming, I switched schools because school was just really tough for me. I didn't have a really core, strong group of friends, and I was going through a lot. And now, last summer I decided to come back, and I'm really glad I did. And I'm so thankful I did, because now I have really good friends who help me through my struggles, and every day is a struggle. No matter if it's like a great day or like a terrible day, there's always something in there that just, it really kind of gets you down. But for me, I'm so thankful I can go home, and I have this great family who will do anything for me. And they just really supported me through anything I was going through.
I think the storm is really different, from the beginning of this to now. And I'm not going to say there's no storms. There certainly is. And I think part of it is also just having a 14-year-old. But, I think it is important to know that after the storm, there is beauty, and we have to get through the storm. We can't just give up. We have to get through the storm so we can see that beauty up on the other side.
And Mary, your story of not being able to sleep for months. I mean, you went through an awful lot as a parent, as many people's parents have experienced. Advice for parents.
Yeah, no, I think when your child hurts, it's you hurt physically, mentally, emotionally. And when your child is just going through, terrible, terrible times, and you're worried for their safety, are they going to make it through the night? Is something going to happen, between the time we say our prayers to the morning? I just couldn't take that chance. So I wasn't sleeping. Sometimes we'd move his bed up to our room so that I would know he was okay. But I would say advice to parents is do keep a very open line of communication. Don't be afraid to say the word suicide. You need to openly say, do you feel safe? Do you feel like you would be better off hurting yourself? Do you have a plan? I think a lot of times parents think that if they bring it up, it's going to give them an idea of what to do. But they're kids. If they're in that position, they already have a plan. They have, a strategy of what they're going to do. So that would be my biggest thing, is to really keep an open line of communication, and don't be afraid to ask hard questions.
That's beautiful. Even Tom Insel, one of our experts in the film, he says even the smallest speed bump, metaphorically, can prevent someone from having suicide ideation or trying to hurt themselves. And it is so true. And it's such an important point to make. And I thank you for the advice for parents, because I think this is a film on youth mental health, but I think it's equally important to ensure that parents are a part of this conversation, like you suggested. MakaLynn, your storm, where do you feel you're at? And do you feel that there was some sort of silver lining?
Yeah, I do think that I feel like the hardest part of the storm is over. That coming to terms with the fact that I do have a mental illness, and it was important for me to learn that storms are inevitable. It's going to happen whether I want it to or not. I can go inside and pretend like it's not raining, but when I go outside, when I look outside, I'm going to realize there's rain on the ground. There's still wreckage that I have to deal with and I have to come to terms with. So hiding from it, pretending like it didn't happen, trying to stuff it down and ignore it is not an option. And I'm very thankful that I know that now, because I've learned that my silver lining is the fact that growth is an option, to learn from these things. I have freedom today to do what I want. I can choose to make my day a good day or a bad day. I can choose to let some roadblock completely take me down and keep me down in this pit of despair, or I can choose to move on from it. It's okay to feel the pain. It's okay to go through that storm, but I don't have to live in that storm. Like that silver lining is always there. I can wake up and I can do what I want. I can be who I want. As long as I'm accepting of what I am, of who I am.
Fantastic. Billie, how about yourself?
For me, it feels like the storm comes and goes. But I'd say one of the biggest things, one of the biggest silver linings I've found through going through so many storms, is just that they do go, they do end. And that has helped me a lot for when these things do come up, to just understand and realize that this feeling doesn't last forever, even if it's like the 5th rock bottom of my life. It feels like it just keeps getting shittier. I know that it won't feel this way forever. And it's kind of like giving me new motivation for life. It was basically just feel things and experience things that I haven't felt or experienced before, because there's so many amazing things out there. And if my suicide attempt had succeeded like all those years ago now, I wouldn't have experienced a lot of these things. I would have found a lot of the amazing people that I have now. I would have had the opportunity to be a part of this film. And I wouldn't have like new hope for where my life can take me.
It's just so overwhelming to listen to all of you after working on this and seeing your faces every single day of the past 3 years. You guys hunkered down with me in COVID. And when I was down here for a year by myself in my editing room, I feel like you're all family in a way. I'm inspired by all of you every single day. Your willingness to participate in this film in the way that you did is going to save lives, and it's going to help change the world. However great or small is not the point. It's that you have done something so incredibly wonderful. And the courage and the resilience that all of you have demonstrated, not just in this film, but in life, is so inspiring. I love you all, and I'm proud on behalf of our entire team who have slaved over this film, and on behalf of WETA, who the network that has sponsored this film and made it possible, on behalf of Ken Burns, who equally made it possible, and especially on behalf of PBS, who will broadcast this nationally in late June and will stream it. And we'll also plan on streaming it in outside outlets. And also they're talking about even streaming it again later on this year. It also will end up in schools. We're planning on helping in any way we can to make it a part of a curriculum. You all have contributed in a way I don't even know if you comprehend yet. And I just, speaking for Julie and I and Chris and our whole team, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. It went from a film to a mission. And I salute you. So thank you all so much for taking the time to be a part of this. And I look forward to seeing all of you in person, hopefully before this even airs, this NamiCon, because that's so close to the air date. So right now, I just want to ask if any of you want to ask each other any kind of question or comment. I wanted to give you the opportunity. No pressure. Okay. I also just
one comment.
Please.
All of you are beautiful, and all of you are amazing, and I can't wait to see what comes of this. I hope to meet all of you in person, hopefully soon, Erik, soon.
Soon. Tom, you need to jump on here and tell us it's going to happen.
Yeah, I wanted to really say the same thing. I mean, we have this little community, and we all really did put ourselves out there, and we were very raw, and it took a lot of courage. And I just want to extend that community, you know what I mean? Because we're going through this together. We're in a documentary together. We're on this panel together. We shared some of the craziest things about ourselves, on a very big platform. So I just want to extend, myself to you guys. If you guys want to just talk about college stuff, talk about whatever we need to talk about. What if you want to talk about the film? Yeah, anything, we could be besties. I'm down for more besties. So.
I would love that as well. And I do think we'll all see each other, whether it's all together or whether it's individually at different events. There's just so much being planned. And I'm really, really excited about all of it. So we will stay in touch, and I'm very excited. I can't wait to see Maclayn and Mary and Joe and their family, and Key in the film is also there, and Gabe and the Peasleys, who are also in the film. We're going to share the film with them and allow our youngest contributors the opportunity to talk with us and hopefully love it. Yeah, I mean, I could stay on all night. This is like torture to try to even say goodbye, but we will see each other soon, and we will stay in touch. So thank you so much for participating.